Welcome to part 5 of the Black Rose translations. Today we're going into the Sacred Nine and the Parzival Stone. To continue reading in 1989, I have received yet another Black Rose translation in which I was shown 9 shining white unicorns gathered in a circle. I was told that they were in the Valley of the Moon on the island of Bali in Indonesia. Now, before I continue, I'm just wondering if on Google Earth we can find Valley of the Moon, since there wasn't any such thing in those days. Well, nope, it didn't come up on Google Earth. Of course, that doesn't mean it's not there. It just isn't labeled on Google Earth, and perhaps it's an ancient name for it. Of course, Valley of the Moon could be found a lot of places. In any case, I thought I would search and see if I could find it, but not. So here we go again. I was shown 9 shining white unicorns gathered in a circle. I was told that they were in the Valley of the Moon on the island of Bali in Indonesia. These 9 unicorns were guardians of the round. Thoth said could also be called the round table. They came together at certain junctions of time and prophecy as a council to manifest an energy form into the planetary grid and Earth's soul. This energy form takes the appearance of an amethyst crystal coming out from a white crystalline matrix at an angle similar to the horn on the forehead of a unicorn. It could be understood as the last zigzag point of the lightning flash glyph, representing the descent of power in the Tree of Life symbology mentioned by Gareth Knight. Thoth gave the name for this crystal to me as the Parzival Stone. He did not tell me the many workings of it, but only that this energy or crystal stone geomantic. Geomantic is a word that he was using a lot at that time instead of geometric. It's like a mantra or a sound, tonal energy, a mantra of the geometry. I guess that's the best way we can describe it here. So he did not tell me the many workings of it, but only that this energy or crystal stone geomantic was a pattern form that allowed a pure energy of divine transport access to the Earth's crystallic grid when this stone was brought by the Sacred Nine unicorns into physical, or to be more accurate, semi-physical manifestation. Parzival differs from the Archangel Stone in that it is unascended. Even in its semi-physical state, it is not entirely within the matter plane. That's wrong. I meant undescended. That's a typo. Of course, anybody reading it is going to think that's what I mean, unfortunately, but who's reading it anymore? So, but it means, so Parzival differs from the Archangel Stone in that it is undescended. Even in its semi-physical state, it is not entirely within the matter plane. The Archangel Stone is within this plane of matter. While the Archangel Stone contains the complete number of light or divine programming for the planet, the Parzival Stone is a conductor for that energy through the planet. You might think of the Parzival Stone as the computer within its circuitry, and the Archangel Stone is the software disk housing the program. Of course, there was nothing but disks in those days. When the Council of the Round formed, they do so to channel the computer so that certain programs from the hierarchy of living lights governing the sphere can be sent into the grid of the planet. One day the program of the Archangel Stone will be inputted into the Parseval matrix. I wonder if that one day has come. A good question to ask, though. The guardians, council of the round, are not the same as the logi, archetypal unicorns. The former are 9 physical unicorns, the latter are 7 non-physical unicorn energies. The logi are the unascended hierarchy. I'm wondering again if that's a typo. The logi are the undescended hierarchy. Sounds better to me. The guardians of the round table, the channelers of divine powers into the earth. The logi are the... Let me take a look at this for a moment here. Remember, I haven't read this since 1989. Well, if the logi are non-physical, then they are undescended. Again, my dyslexia or my typing skills got the best of me there. So, the logi are the undescended hierarchy, the guardians of the round, the channelers of divine power into the earth. Understand that even the logi is a function of greater powers. And now I'm going to quote from The Secret Tradition in Arthurian Legend by Gareth Knight, and this is to quote from that book. There is a clear distinction between the strands of the Grail Quest legend that surrounds Galahad and that which surrounds Parseval. Galahad represents the natural sequence of the ancient Atlantean dynastic pattern conceived by Merlin, his masters, and the fairy women. Parseval is a more universal figure who represents the human race as a whole. He is the 12th century version of the Fool of the Tarot. In another sense, they represent 2 attitudes to spiritual realities. The one achieving by works, that's Parseval, and the other achieving by faith, Galahad. The Fool represents an inner attitude of divine innocence, which redeems whatever it meets. The quality of the Fool is in all relationships. By this act of humility, prevents adverse elements in the situation from causing disequilibrium. Any adverse aspect present is brought to the heart of its positive nature. Thus, one can say that the Fool, being present in any situation, redeems it. In terms of symbolic mathematics, the 0 of the Fool adds and subtracts nothing to any other number, but raises it by a power. That is, for example, by it, 1 becomes 10,000, 10, 100, 1,000, etc. Now, Thoth calls the Fool in its highest aspect the hidden Christ. Just thought I'd throw that in. In the lowest aspect, well, it's more kind of chaotic, and yet still there's an innocence about it. The round table signifies the universe and all the inner powers. This is still Gareth. The round table signifies the universe and all the inner powers within it. To the outer eye, it is the sphere of the stars and of interstellar space. To the inner eye, it is this and very much more. The Grail, which is intimately allied to the round table, is the heart of man as the alchemical crucible of evolutionary experience, insofar as its greater mystery pertains to human dimensions. And that's the end of the quotes from Gareth Knight. Now I am saying, my sources say that the Grail, the Archangel Stone, and the Ark of the Covenant are all really functions of the same divine mechanism. Before we continue, I want to show you this little guy. This little baby black unicorn. Now let me tell you his story. Okay, so yesterday, I was taking a break from my Black Rose translations, and I was at a sim that has a lot of gotcha machines for cute little animals and nice realistic ones. I got the forest cat there. And they have gotcha machines. Now, gotcha machines in Second Life are like slot machines, only instead of money coming out, little cute things or pretty things or clothes or whatever, hair comes out of them instead. And you have a bunch of selections that you may get for a very small amount of money. Of course, what they're counting on is they're going to get you. That means that you're going to want one particular thing in there, and you're going to keep piling in the Lindens, that's the money for Second Life, until you get it, you know. Well, I was determined. When I came to this one machine and I saw this little black unicorn, just one, in the midst of all these other, you know, there was one other unicorn, it was white, then there were ponies, and I don't know, all kinds of things. And I thought, no way am I going to get this with one play. But you know, something just kind of tickled me and said, try it. Because I wasn't going to do more than one. I did one play and I got him. Now, you know, he's a little cartoony looking unicorn, but he's black. And I just had this feeling that while I was doing the Black Rose translations, that if I played that machine one time, I would get him. And I did. I just wanted to share that with you. So I thought I'd let him hang around a little bit while we continue. And so to continue, as I was putting this issue together, Lawrence Chisholm sent me the following information. The Rainbow Dream is a collective vision synthesized from various North American Indian medicine lodges. And this is directly from the Rainbow Dream, from Dancing as One Consciousness, Acorn Publishing, Great Britain, and says, in 1989, we will once again see the way to continue a new dream. We will be given the roadmap back to the stars, and we will see the star people come out of the illusion of their two-legged form and into their actual great sleeper dreamer form. And so you will see some very, very powerful, totally enlightened masters in 1989. And that's the year of the second coming of Christ, spoken of in the book of Revelations, and it will be the awakening of the new circle. So the second coming of the new sacred circle is all enlightened humans dancing as one consciousness. Now that ends the quote. A few days later, I found in my mailbox a notice from the Rainbow Light Retreat in Sedona, Arizona. They were announcing the beginning of this very special retreat in which all light workers would be welcome. The following sentences in this material struck me, and I'm quoting, "This full moon, March 1989, and that's interesting because we're in March 2018, 2 8s there, right? And 8 and 1 make 9. Oh, the beauty of it. Okay. Was called around the world a spiritual full moon, heralding the final stages of the beginning of the new age, and was celebrated as the festival of the second coming of Christ's love consciousness to planet Earth. A spiritual full moon occurs once every 2,000 years. Well, obviously, we're not in that spiritual full moon yet, but we are in 2018, March 2018, as I'm reading this. And there's an 8 and 2 9s, and in 18, there's an 8, and 8 plus 1 equals 9. And so I continue. Now, this is me in 1989. There are startling correlations between the Black Rose mystery information given in this issue of Temple Doors. Well, that was originally in an issue of Temple Doors before I put it together in this book, and the Rainbow Dream prophecy. I'm especially intrigued by the line, the star people will come out of the illusion of their two-legged form, perhaps into a four-legged form. The new circle I see is connected to the circle made by the Sacred Nine in their Council of the Round Table. As for the second coming, I went again to Thoth. The question is, you said that the Black Rose was not what is thought of as the second coming. Could you be more specific? Does the second coming of the rainbow dream prophecy relate to the birth of the black rose? And Thoth replies, the rainbow dream prophecy does point to the sacred birth in its usage of the term second coming, but it is not what is thought of by the world religions as the second coming, nor is this Christ overlighted unicorn the entire return of the Christ to the earth, but instead only a phase of the whole. After writing the above information, now I'm speaking, after writing the above information, I was led by my sources to the bookstore. Upon entering, I immediately saw a beautiful flaming sword, zigzag lightning bolt, of the Kabbalistic tree of life on the cover of a small paperback book entitled Simplified Magic, A Beginner's Guide to the New Age Kabbalah by Ted Andrews. Of course, I purchased the book. The color image of the book's cover is an illuminating mandala. Since the unicorns, and most especially the black rose in both unicorn and mystery, is intertwined with the Kabbalah, Ted Andrews' Kabbalistic study is pertinent to the deeper values our pursuit in the quest for the black rose, of our pursuit. Mr. Andrews touches upon the Avalonic realm when he writes, and I quote, I have come to realize that thoughts are things and moods and places. I believe in fairies, pixies, elves, and trees that speak, and caverns that lead to nether worlds. I know that there are dragons and princesses and wisdom in all things. I have seen angels, archangels, devas, and celestial beings working with us and for us at all times. My world is full of color and light and magic. End of quote. According to my sources, the Kabbalah is only a portion of a larger mystery or mysteries, which they refer to as the Enochian mysteries. Now, I want to qualify, this is not John Dee's Enochian magic, although, he dabbled, there's Enochian mysteries parts in it, I guess. But this is something higher and grander and bigger. Thoth Merlin states that the Solomonic mysteries were essentially Enochian. As previously discussed in an issue of the source, the Enochian master Menon taught Moses the secrets of this illumined knowledge in Egypt. It was also related in a past source issue that the Enochian masters now descended to earth are the Order of the Burning Bush. It doesn't mean that the sentence is not really good. It doesn't mean that all the Enochian masters are descended to earth, but there are, I believe, 333 that form the Order of the Burning Bush in the earth. In the earth, like the unicorns exist among us and we don't see them, but they're here. I guess that's what it means. In issue 189 of Temple Doors, we explored the Noachian and their interaction with the Enochian master frequency. In the book Simplified Magic, we find a correlation to the Temple Doors information concerning all this in the following passage, and now I'm quoting from Ted Andrews. Kabbalah comes from the ancient word Qibel, Qibel, which means to receive, or that which is received. In the ancient world, it had a more general meaning of the law. It is the earliest form of Jewish mysticism. There are many stories of how it came to be. Most claim that it was the knowledge given to Moses on Mount Sinai during the episode of the burning bush. Another version says it was taught by God to the angels who formed a school based upon it in paradise. After man's fall, the angels passed it on to the children of earth so that they may again overcome the earth plane and ascend to the heavens. It is told that the archangel Metatron gave the Kabbalah to Adam, who in turn passed it on down to Noah and then to Abraham. When Abraham immigrated to Egypt, a portion of it leaked out. In this version, Moses, who was the first initiated into its uses by the Egyptians, became quite proficient in it during the 40 years upon the desert. He passed it on to the elders, who in turn passed it on from generation to generation by word of mouth. David and Solomon were probably the most deeply initiated into its wisdom and mysteries. It has been found in the Chaldean vision. It was part of the teachings of Pythagoras, and Jesus made numerous references to it. The phrasing of the Lord's Prayer is very Kabbalistic in itself. Now, we know that the tree of life, in its ultimate sense, is the universal, beyond universal, the universal, the multi-universal DNA. And it's all of the kindred universes. And that comes down into our physical bodies. But it is also a system, an order of consciousness that is embedded into that DNA. Now I go back to my 1989 self and I say, Thoth tells me that the three sephira of the Kabbalah Sephirothic tree of life, which directly form the trinity of the Black Rose mystery, are Yesod, Tifereth, and Bina. In simplified magic, we read that Yesod, quote, is that level of consciousness associated with the moon. Deep violets fill this level. This is the foundation of the astral and etheric planes of life. It is that level which our mind can build the images that connect us to all others in our life. Now, if Tifereth, Ted Andrews says, is that his name? Yes, I think so. Anyway, from this book, he says, this is the level of beauty, and the gleaming golden sun within each of us can be found here. It is through this level that we can harmonize all manifestations of energy. It is the awakening of this center within our planet that has manifested the prevalence of the rainbow. For it is through this center that we unveil the energy and healing abilities hidden within the rainbow. And then Bina is the sphere wherein this lies understanding. It can be linked to Saturn-like influences astrologically. Saturn is the teacher who teaches us that through patience and time, we can come to understand that which has been hidden from us. For this reason, this sphere can be visualized as black, because all colors are hidden in black. The black veils the divine glory until time and understanding reveal it. And I say, Mr. Andrews continues describing the angels of Bina, saying that they are, quote, sometimes called the thrones, unquote. No, not unquote. We keep going. They are appointed over the grass, trees, fruit, grain, in essence, all of Mother Earth. Now we end the quotes. I find this passage especially revealing in relation to Thoth's message given in this issue, in which he states that the overlying entity of Amethystine, mother of the Black Rose, was from a throne of the hierarchy. And then I have this quote from, oh my goodness, it's quoted from In Pursuit of the Unicorn by Joseph Bradley, but the quote itself is by a man called Guillaume. I'm probably really butchering that name, and it's a French title, so I'm not going to even try. But here it is. The unicorn represents Jesus Christ, who took on him our nature in the Virgin's womb, who was betrayed to the Jews and delivered into the hands of Pontius Pilate. Its one horn signifies the gospel truth that Christ is one with the Father. Well, that's one way of looking at the horn, but I would look also at it from the point of referencing, striking the core of human consciousness and revealing the Christ mantle within. That would be Thoth's version. And so now I talk about the Vavra books, Robert Vavra and his fabulous unicorn books, Unicorns I Have Known and Unicorns of Kilimanjaro. And I titled this, in this issue here, I titled it The Vavra Books, Super Horses or Super Glue, because, well, the pictures in the book are pretty, I mean, they're incredibly beautiful. But you and I know that they really aren't unicorns. In 1989, you know what I did? I said, I'm not asking Thoth because I want them to be unicorns. So I'm just going to pretend that they are, because these images are so beautiful. And the unicorns have little roses and flowers curled in their hair. You know, it's not unicorns, but it's just so beautiful. I'm just saying in this piece, I'm saying, I'm just going to leave it open, you know, and talk about these beautiful horses that he glued horns on in these images, not glued them, of course, but something, I guess he photoshopped them in or whatever, are unicorns, because in the heart and soul of what he was depicting, they are unicorns in that sense. So I'm not going to read all of this, but I'm going to read little pieces of it. But now, like the other unicorn book that I read from, and you know, the pictures that were drawn and everything, a lot of the information in Robert Vavra's books, photographs aside, I believe, according to the Thoth record, is channeled information. Maybe he knows he's channeling it and maybe he doesn't. But that's why I want to present some of it here in this video that I've written down in 1989. So I state, Robert Vavra credits most of his knowledge about the habits of unicorns to his having come across the diary of a man named Rudolph O. Springer, who, like himself, saw and studied these creatures. Now, I believe it's entirely possible Robert Vavra saw some unicorns. The pictures, well, that's another matter. Is this book for real, or did he make it up and actually channel the information? Doesn't really matter, because I feel that what he's receiving here is basically 95% whatever accurate. He found it in 1961, and it wasn't until 1968 that he spied and photographed his first unicorn. However, it is my contention that he could never have seen, much less photographed, even one unicorn, unless the guardians of the round wished this to occur, and moreover guided him every step of the way to each unicorn he photographed. Now again, I say in the beginning, I'm going to assume that these images are real, but they could very likely not be. That's the way I put it in the text. Now, you know, not being 21 or 22 years old or whatever I was then, I'm looking at it and I'm going, no way, these aren't unicorns, not real ones. But, you know, that's how it was. So, as I say, as Vavra states, unicorns have the ability to shield themselves from reflection, making them invisible to the eye, much the same way spacecraft cruising our skies do. And I might add certain Sasquatch, Bigfoot do as well. Also, like spacecraft, they can travel dimensionally, interdimensionally, only in a much more limited way. This latter is a point Vavra does not make. Perhaps he is unaware of it, although he does intimate he knows more than he is telling about the whole subject of unicorns. He does contradict what my sources have told me when he writes that all unicorn horns disintegrate shortly after the death of the animal. Thoth tells me that while this is naturally the case, the guardians of the round will that certain unicorns of both types remain intact in order to serve specific magical purposes. Vavra gives some fascinating Bible quotes concerning unicorns, two of which I've requoted here. And one is from Numbers 23:22, God brought them out of Egypt. He hath the strength of a unicorn. And the other is from Psalms 22:21, save me from the lion's mouth, for thou hast heard me from the horns of the unicorns. This last quote brings us back to Psalms, which was bound in silver and placed within a certain chamber of the throne of Solomon, and the black rose riddle borne in silver to a tryst. Vavra quotes St. Ambrose as saying, quote, who is this unicorn but the only begotten Son of God, unquote. That one is powerful. Okay. As to the elusive black unicorn, Vavra writes in Unicorns I Have Known, quote, perhaps the only sadness I feel with the publication of these photographs is that Hard as I tried, I was not able to stalk close enough to black unicorns, 3 of which were observed, each in a distinct part of the world, to photograph them. The black unicorn, especially those of more than 1,000 years of age, which, like their white relatives, have blue eyes, is beautiful beyond wildest imaginings. Springer mentions having spotted 4 black animals, never together, but each in a distinct habitat. Neither he nor I ever saw a stag or doe whose short body hair was any shade but pure white or jet black. And that ends the quote from Vavra, sorry. Now I'm saying, it is of special interest to me that he was led to find the black unicorns, but not allowed to photograph them. Again, we're assuming, when I'm saying this, that his images were real. And I, at this point in time, don't believe they are. And I never asked those or looked into the Akasha because I didn't want to know. I just wanted to believe. Also considering that, according to my sources, only 1 black unicorn is born on the surface of the planet every 3,000 years, it is obvious that both Vavra and his predecessor Springer were guided to their contacts, however distant, with the midnight ones. If, again, they saw them. If, again, they even attempted to photograph them, which apparently they didn't. In discussing his knowledge of fawns, or baby unicorns, Vavra writes that the fawns are born without horns. The mother licks the waxen seal on the baby's forehead until it is dissolved, at which time the horn begins to grow rapidly. In a half hour after birth, the young unicorn's horn is about 3 inches in length. The yearling horn is 8 inches in length, reaching a maximum span of 18 inches when the unicorn is 50 years of age. There is an undeniable mystic correlation between the seal of wax on the forehead of the baby unicorn and the 7 seals, since it is through the horns or spirals of the unicorn logi that the Elohim perform the sacred tonings of these seals. To really wrap your head around all this, you have to go very cosmic, very mystical, very symbolic. This is reality, but it's clothed in the deepest of mysteries and connectiveness. So in other words, I truly believe that the mother licks the forehead of the baby unicorn and poof, here comes the unicorn horn. But it's also highly symbolic, and it represents many connections to spiritual cosmology. Vavra actually witnessed the birth of a unicorn, or at least heard the mother in labor, and in the morning light saw, quote, the fawn that lay white and wet at its mother's side in a thicket of blackberries. Vavra writes that birth seems to take place on the first dark, moonless night after the 1,229th day of pregnancy, unquote. Our black rose, however, will not be born on a moonless night. It should be considered that this particular unicorn will not conform to the exact pattern of other unicorns because of its divine nature. And that's assuming that this particular quote from his book is accurate. I felt very strongly about the horn and the waxen horn. I'm not so sure about this, but I'm not sure that it isn't either. It is to be born at dawn, more or less, which Vavra says is when all unicorns are born. The black rose will be an exception to another rule as well. It will attain 50 years worth of unicorn growth in its first year of life. Now, again, we had this unicorn black, and it suddenly turned white, I don't know, months after it was born. So I asked Thoth about this now, and I received that we're dealing with completely different time frames. 50 years in a unicorn's life could be just several months. Actually, it would be longer than that. In other words, maybe 1,000 years in the unicorn's life might equal a month in hours. I'm saying might. I'm giving it as an example. But there's a vastly different time rate that we're talking about here. Okay, I'm going to skip some of this because it's almost unicorn trivia in regard to where we're going with all of this. So let me see where else I want to pursue. What else I want to pursue here? Well, actually, the Vavra material, that sort of ends that right there. And I'm going to go next into some visions I received at the time, but I'm not going to do it in this video. So we will conclude this video and pick up with the next one. Thank you for listening.